For those of you that don't know me, I'm the owner of AGA Tools. And in today's live, we are going to talk a little bit about our Clean Oil Series oil change products. This is something that is fairly new to us. It's about 3 years old, but it is an area of our business that has accelerated hugely, in particular the last year, year and a half. And a lot of people go, well, why is that? Well, I think some of the things that have changed the industry a little bit is that brands like Tesla and Rivian, they offer a full mobile service, remote, and they come to you. It offers a whole nother level of customer service experience. And then people go, well, why can't I have that on my regular car? And then immediately people go, well, you know, you have messy things like oil changes and stuff like that, and that keeps you from doing it in the field. However, that is absolutely not true, because we have developed a system that's very, very clean and spill-free. So that's kind of like the lead into this. And what we have done is we see basically the same questions over and over again being asked by customers, being asked by shops, being asked by dealerships. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate this into a dealership to make it a clean oil change, make it better for technicians. They can now change oil on cars that are really hot without a burn risk because they don't get spray and stuff on their hands and stuff like that. The other thing is simply the profit aspect of it. We have a lot of dealers that purchase the plugs, install them into a vehicle that before it's sold, and then by doing that now can offer their customers mobile service right out of the gate, just like, for instance, Tesla, Rivian, and other manufacturers that are on the forefront of this. We, of course, have been working very tightly with BMW for years and years, so I would say that BMW dealers are the furthest along on this program, but also Ford as a brand is huge, and they've been pushing mobile service for years now, and they're utilizing a bunch of our products in their series as well. So what is one of the more common asked questions?
How do I install the drain plug without making a mess?
So the question is, in case you couldn't pick it up on the microphone there, is how do I install the oil drain plug without making a mess? So let me just show you really quickly. This is our oil drain plug. It's very, very unique in the design, and that's why we got this patented. It's unlike any other plug designed out there. It has many different features. One thing that you'll notice is that it is very, very low profile. And so the question was, how do you install this into the oil pan without making a mess? Well, why is that important? Well, there's two scenarios where this really comes into play. One is if you are a dealer and you want to put this into the car before it leaves your dealership, doing PDI, which stands for pre-delivery inspection, or CPO, certified pre-owned, they will take the plug and install it into the pan. But they don't want to drain all the oil that's brand new basically on a PDI and waste that oil and also spend the time to put it back in. So we have come up with a vacuum regulator. Let me actually grab one over here so you can see what it looks like. The vacuum regulator is a device that can be connected to a traditional vacuum cleaner, whether it's a little battery powered one that we have here, or if it's an actual shop vac. It doesn't matter, because this regulates the vacuum down to a very, very low level of vacuum. As a matter of fact, it's only right around 40 millibar, which is only like 1.1 inch of vacuum. So that's like...
So metal shavings aren't going to go back up into the drain plug?
No. And that's actually a good question. What happens is when you take the oil drain plug out of the oil pan, what will happen is the vacuum introduced onto the crankcase, and of course the oil pan, which is part of the crankcase, will kind of gurgle up. And it will basically take the oil that is down in the oil pan and kind of rigorously move it around, which you'll see in our video if you go on and look at AGA tools under our vacuum regulator. We also have a couple of videos out there that shows that. And what it actually does, it actually kind of aids in performing a better oil change because debris, sediment, and stuff like that will be stirred up. And typically while the motor is warm, so all that debris and sludge and whatnot that is in the oil pan will get stirred up and sit in the oil pan like this. And then because we are extracting the oil out with force using our oil extraction pump, you actually get more debris out of the motor than you would doing a conventional oil change where you just remove the oil drain plug because it's being sucked out with force and because it's being rigorously stirred by the vacuum regulator before it gets extracted. That was kind of a side question, but back to how do you do this? Because a lot of people have asked about it. So this is a small section of a valve cover. This is the newer style. This happens to be off of a BMW that has the newer style quarter turn. We have our oil funnel kit, which makes it super handy to put oil back in when you pour it in. If you kit, there is a quarter turn adapter and there is an adapter for the vacuum regulator. So you simply take the quarter adapter and put it into the valve cover. You take the adapter and put it into here, and you install the vacuum regulator into there. Now, when you turn on the vacuum, here we have it with our vacuum remote, that it also is really handy if you're doing this mobily, because now you're underneath the car, you don't have to take it up and put it back down, and take it up and put it back down. But by the remote, you turn on the vacuum, it creates a suction into the motor, pretty loud. I'm gonna turn that back off, and that suspends the oil. Now, you can take the factory oil drain plug out and put in the clean oil drain plug without any oil coming out. So that's really handy. Also, if you're doing this the very first time in the field customer's driveway or at work in their parking lot or whatever, you have no chance of spilling oil because it's being held in. You're going to install the clean oil drain plug into the vehicle prior to start sucking out the oil. And let's talk just for 1 second about sucking out the oil. Here we have another configuration oil pan where the plug is already installed. It has a secondary sealing cap on it that is torqued by using torques it to 1.8 Newton meter. But we're going to take that off. It only ratchets in one direction, so you can take it right off. And then you have the tool that looks like that. And that's the same whether it's used on a mobile caddy, in the shop pump like you see here on a regular like Graco roll-around oil drain that is typically used in the shop, or if it's used with our full-size mobile systems that are used for Sprinter vans, transits, and everything else, which is a whole other part that I'll talk more about in a minute. But this tool connects right up to here, to the oil drain plug, and then it seals to the plug. Now, to open, you just turn this knob in. That first opens up the tool because the tool is also sealed. And now turning in further, it opens up the valve. Now you come over here on the pump, you hit the oil drain switch, and it sucks the fluid out with power. In this case, it returns it into this 5-gallon unit. In this case, it would just suck it out and put it into the Graco oil can like you would normally, but with no mess. So I think that covers the vacuum regulator and how it extracts it. What other questions do you have?
What happens if I install this and a customer takes a car elsewhere for an oil change?
Okay, that's a really good question. We get that often, actually. So if you have the oil drain plug installed, simply take the oil drain plug out and the oil will come out. It's no different than a traditional oil plug in that manner. Of course, if you do that, install a new seal washer. Typically, if it's a BMW, it already comes in the oil filter kit. But if it's not provided, make sure you get a new one so you don't end up with a leak. But that is no different than taking out the factory oil drain plug. So that is a non-issue. What other questions do we have?
Can I suck oil out from the oil fill cap?
No. So when you have an engine, there is so much, and actually pretty handy if you have one right here. I'll roll it over. So here, you couldn't get a better cross-section of an engine, actually. And this happened to be valve cover for one of these guys, but the oil pan is down here. And the oil drain plug is right here in the bottom of the oil pan. Typically, when you have an engine and it's full of oil, the oil will be sitting somewhere right around this level, close to the seam of the oil pan and the engine block. Now, when you look at the engine, you have these oil return passages where there's holes in the cylinder head and the oil flows down. It comes up and it lubricates the camshafts, the variable cam timing, the rocker arms, the followers, the hydraulic lifters, all that stuff that is lubricated by oil, that gets oil when the engine is running. As soon as you turn the engine off and the oil pump is no longer delivering oil under pressure to those components in the valve train, the oil starts draining down into the crankcase, which then you can suck out doing an oil change. But because of that, there's such a far distance from the vacuum regulator sitting all the way up here on the top of the engine and cylinder head that it doesn't lift any oil up whatsoever. It all stays down in the crankcase. And keep in mind, the amount of suction is very, very minimal. We're talking about 40 millibar or 1 inch of vacuum, which is nothing. And that's all it takes to suspend the oil and keep it up. And we purposely do not use like a vacuum cleaner connected directly because it could damage like a PCV valve, a rear crank seal, a front crank seal, or other components on the motor that we don't want to occur. That's why we've spent a lot of time kind of developing this product. So you cannot suck oil up with the vacuum regulator.
How much is it set up for my shop?
Okay, so if you're a shop and you're looking to get a way to do clean oil changes, and to this point, we kind of talked a lot about doing it mobily. That's, of course, one thing. But another thing for me that's equally as big is that a lot of these modern cars, they have aluminum splash shields on the bottom, what they call them chassis stiffening plates, because they're actually part of the subframe and provide structure for the vehicle. And they're often held on with a ton of bolts. And sometimes even those bolts are one-time use fasteners. So if you have to take that all the way down, it's very time consuming, but sometimes you have to, because when you take the oil drain plug out in a traditional manner, it splashes out to the side. With the clean oil drain plug, you just take the cap off, connect the tool to the plug, and you suck it right out. And you suck it right out with this pump. It's really no different than doing a regular oil change. And if you purchase a system, and I should mention, traditional oil change, you take the oil drain plug out, it takes about 3.5 to 4 minutes for the oil to run out by gravity. And that's, of course, when you have the oil cap off, because otherwise it will be even longer. Now, with this, it takes between regular car, 5 to 6 quarts, it takes between 40 and 60 seconds to suck it out. That's how fast it is. And the other aspect of it is you don't get any oil on you. So if you're doing it on a hot car, this knob right here, you'll see, is made out of a heat-insulated material, and it has an air gap between the tool and knob, so it does not get hot at all. Of course, the metal part of it gets really hot because we have, let's say, 210-degree hot engine oil coming right through. So when removing it, be careful not to touch that because it'll actually burn your fingers just like the oil will when you get it on your skin. So removing it, just remove it from the knob, and it seals off the tool, it evacuates out all the oil, and when you take it apart, there's no oil inside. But the system here, the pump, the vacuum regulator, the funnel with the adapters, and everything you need, including the torque tool to put the cap back on and tighten it, is about $1,800. And then it depends on where you're at in the country for shipping.
Do you have a less expensive version?
Yeah, we do have a less expensive version. It's not as convenient. It's not as fast. But if you don't want to invest in the system for your shop, the most expensive component is the pump. So if you want to do it in a less expensive manner, then we have a pump like this. It's just basically like a vacuum operated with an air hose right here. Or if you choose, you can just create the vacuum by pumping it as well. It works well. It's not as fast, and you have to empty it often. So that's kind of like the downsides. But for a homeowner, for instance, that just wants to do oil changes on their own vehicle, buy a plug, buy one of these pumps, whether you buy it from us or on Amazon, and we sell a hose kit that goes right on these pumps, so you may already have one, I don't know, and get the tool, and you're set up for very, very little money. And now, let's say you buy your oil at AutoZone or Kraken or whatever, it's already in this can, and you can just take it straight back to them and dump it where you buy your oil and oil filters. So that's a really convenient, no mess way to do oil changes if you are a end user, garage type mechanic, do-it-yourselfer. But for a shop, I would highly recommend the pump.
Can I suck oil out from the dipstick tube?
Yes, you can. And as a matter of fact, we offer a oil hose kit. Let me show you. It's like this. It connects to the pump with a fitting. And the answer is yes, you can suck oil out of the oil dipstick if it has a dipstick. A lot of vehicles nowadays don't have a dipstick.
Someone's watching and they're asking, where can I buy one?
Where can you buy this?
Yep.
It's
Anything?
for sale right now, agatools.com. And another thing is, if you want to know specifically about the pump, if you want to know specifically about the caddy, every single product that we have has a video assigned to it. So when you go in and click on it on our webpage, a video comes up. It shows you how to use it, and it shows it also used in combination with other components that you might need or might want to kind of expand. But back to the dipstick question. Because this has a very small hole in it, it takes a long time. It's not uncommon to take 40 minutes to suck 6 quarts out of a dipstick. The other aspect of it is you don't always go all the way to the bottom because the dipstick is not really designed to suck oil out of it. It's just supposed to check it. So you're not guaranteed that you get all the oil out. When you suck out through the designated oil drain plug in the pan, you're going to get all the oil out of the crankcase. And so that's kind of a pain point for me because let's say you leave a quart or a quart and a half in there and now you think you're empty but you're not, and you put your 5.5 quarts back in. Now you're a quart and a half overfilled, and that could be a big problem. I mean, it could actually damage the motor, some of the PCV valves, get oil into the intake and whatnot. So yes, you can suck to the oil dipstick, but I do not recommend it. And more cars don't even have a dipstick tube. Like BMW is discontinued a long time. Audi, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and I'm sure some of the Japanese and other brands are going to follow suit to that.
Are there any dealers currently using these systems?
Yeah, we have a lot of dealers using this. Obviously, we're kind of known on the BMW side, so we have the most is on the BMW side, but we have a lot of Ford that are really big on the mobile side, and that's where they utilize it. And we have dealers all throughout the country where the cars are leaving the dealerships with the oil drain plugs installed. And they don't just do it for mobile. They do it really for reducing hazardous waste. You don't use any brake cleaner when you get the car back in for oil changes. You don't spill on the undercarriage in the car, which later on causes customer satisfaction issues. Because if you had your car in for an oil change at any dealership, you come home, park it in your garage, and the next day there's a puddle of oil under it, you're not a happy customer. And that oil gets tracked into the house by your kids and this and that, and it's a bigger problem than you would think, but it's real life.
And then people have been saying they've seen a bunch of these online at different prices. How is ours better?
Okay, so that's actually a really good question. And normally we don't talk about competitors, and I'm not going to say any names, but as part of our development process, this was a really, really big deal for us. When we first wanted to do this oil change program, we were trying to use an already existing product that was just readily available on the market. And what we found was there really isn't anything on the market that meets the needs for a proper installed oil drain plug. So let's, for instance, take this one here, which is what they consider their low profile plug. But as you can see, it's very large in diameter. And if you want to install that into the pan, it barely fits. And then if you take the socket that you need to torque it with, it doesn't go in. So in this configuration right here, even if you wanted to, you couldn't physically install it into the pan. And if you have a sideways configuration like this, where you can say it doesn't matter, it sticks down, but look at how big the diameter is. It will stick down past the oil pan. So that's, in my book, very dicey. Customer were to go over a parking block or a planter box or off-road a little bit or something like that, not a good thing. So, however, that's not the biggest concern actually, which is like already for me a no-go. The biggest concern is this particular company right here. They say right on their webpage that maximum torque on this plug is 9 foot-pounds. Now, most manufacturers are between 20 and 25 foot-pounds of torque, or 28 newton meters, however you want to say it, but much, much higher than the 9 foot-pounds of torque that this can do. And nobody, whether you are a manufacturer, a dealership, or a home user, should put something into the oil pan that can only be torqued to less than half of the value that they recommend. Now, other brands you can see here, I mean, they're gigantor, right? I mean, if we compare them here to they're huge, they're large. I mean, you couldn't have this sticking down like this. I mean, if you were to go over a planter box or anything, and you can't even put the little belly pan cover back on that needs to go back on because it sticks down so far. And the other aspect of it is, even if you could and would, or had an application where this would work, the connection to them is not clean at all. And they don't offer any kind of removal device. So they have kind of like this thing that goes on, but when you disconnect it, you still have a lot of oil coming out and dripping, and could still get on the ground and leave spots in customers' driveways and whatnot. I highly recommend, if you haven't done it, go in and watch the oil drain plug video on agatools.com, because it shows you how clean this is, how clean it is with the interface, and absolutely no oil comes out. There's other ones out there where they kind of use like a big attachment tube like this, which in a lot of wouldn't even fit into the car. We've taken a lot of effort in making this tool swivel 360 degrees this way, 360 degrees this way, so this can go into almost all applications, whether it's side mounted or bottom up. Is there any other questions? Okay, well, I want to just, before we kind of call it a day here, show you some of the applications where people are doing it. This is at BMW dealerships. This is actually the interior of a BMW X3. You can see they're using the oil caddy right here. It's installing in the back. This caddy obviously can go in any vehicle, not just a BMW X3, but it comes with, from us, aircraft latch and hold down that has a 400-pound rating. So it will securely hold this into the vehicle without it tipping over. This can be taken right out. This is very light. It's like a little battery charger looking kind of thing. You can roll it right over to a car, hook up the hose, get underneath the car, and suck out the oil. You can put it right back in the car again. Another application that we have is we have what's called a full-size system. This system you see here goes into the back of a Sprinter van. It also fits into a Transit and like a Dodge Ram or any full-size vehicle. It's designed with the oil tanks to be pushed out to the side so you don't lose the cargo space here in the middle. And that's important for people who are doing tires and oil change. Also, over here, you'll see that we have a couple of different variations of the system. It doesn't have to be into a tall van. This system is what we call our mid-size. It can go into like a Transit Connect, the smaller Ford Transit, or a Dodge Ram Mini, or City, I think they call it, Dodge Ram City maybe. And this is our compact system. Does the same thing. It automatically fills and meters oil, which offers speed and convenience. And it holds 2 grades, 2 times 20 gallons of new engine oil that you can dispense right into the vehicle with a regular flow meter like you're used to seeing in the shop. They pull out these hose wheels 50 feet from the vehicle, so you can get really long range to service them. The upside to these is these can go into a more compact vehicle. So if you're doing it in a parking structure or apartment complex, something like that, where there's low ceiling height, where you couldn't necessarily get a Sprinter van in, you can still use this in a regular size van or a minivan or whatever you want to put it in, back of a pickup truck. And to get the oil out on this system, we have a remote pump. The remote pump accepts the tool right here. It has the same Milwaukee battery, and you just turn it on and off, and you suck the oil out with the pump, and that's connected right here to the 50-foot hose reel, like that. So it returns the oil straight back to the holding tank in the vehicle. Now, this system right here is really popular because at the same time, you have a place to keep the vacuum regulator, the tools, and everything else you use for the oil change. You have a couple of really deep drawers where you can lay out your oil change tools, wrenches, sockets, and this and that you need. And there's a couple of these drawers right here, so it offers a lot of space. And it has a slot where you can put a floor jack in. So putting the floor jack in is very convenient. It's kind of up in height. You come right up, grab it out, and then while in transport, there is this latch mechanism right here, which holds the floor jack in place. So that's just some of the products that we offer to more complete. Now this may have a bigger interest for upfitters, or let's say that you are a private operator and you have an account with a plumbing business that has 50 vehicles or something like that. You can now offer them a great service by coming to their location in the afternoon or even evening when all the vehicles return. It offers a huge convenience for the customer that owns that plumbing business, because now they can have the vehicles out on the road and not lose them for an entire day to come in for something as simple as an oil change. So anyway, many, many, many different uses. We could go on and on, but I think you get the picture of it. So thank you very much for watching. We appreciate it, and we're going to sign out here.